result of the rising cost of running a business in the nation. Based on their proposal, the price floor of calls will increase from 6.4 naira to 8.95 naira, while the price cap of SMS will increase from 4 naira to 5.61 naira. According to them, the telecommunication industry has been financially impacted following the nation's economic recession in 2020 and the effect of the ongoing Ukraine-Russia crisis. The federal government has disclosed that the second Niger bridge will be commissioned in October and that the Lagos-Ibadan highway will also be commissioned in June 2022. Nigeria's Minister of State for Works and Housing, Muazu Sambo, said that 11.9 kilometers second Niger bridge and 120-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan highway are part of President Buhari's administration pledges on infrastructure.
Well, it is no longer news that the prices of foodstuff and other commodities have gone up and purchasing power reduced in recent times. Nigerians are spending much on food. Does this translate to more money for food entrepreneurs, or are they also struggling to stay afloat? Joining me right now to discuss the food business in this inflationary period is Nneka Adesoya. She is the founder and CEO of Super Dishes. Thanks for joining us on Business Insight on
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
It is indeed our pleasure. Let's just dive into it.
So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take? I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science. Everyone says in Islam you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory? The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify, and help you, the viewer, to better understand the issue before making up your mind.
Our goal is to reduce from 10 to 2 days the time it takes to register businesses in Nigeria.
Join me every week on this station, PlusTvAfrica, and gain exclusive access to my conversations. I'm Angela Ajetumobi.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshukeye.
Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Events is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely, right? No question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild. This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity. No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thought and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future.
Now, those were the stories that made headlines this week. Moving on, despite the growth of NFT among Nigerians, it remains a novel concept. A large number of the population are still unaware of its operations. Also, the government is yet to provide an elaborate and uniform regulation to guide its usage in Nigeria. Rume Dominic is a certified blockchain architect and cryptocurrency expert. He is also an executive member of the Stakeholders in Blockchain Association of Nigeria, CBAN. He is the MD CEO of Verm Nigeria Company. He joins us now to share insights on this conversation. Thank you for joining us, Rume Dominic.
Thank you very much.
Let's talk about this particular development, which is, the NFTs. What do we really need to know as people? It is a bit novel in Nigeria. Are there risks involved?
Yes, of course. There are major risks associated with this particular NFT space. And the truth is, NFT is the latest digital trend, and it is rapidly gaining attention in Africa's largest economy. It is a non-fungible token that is unique, and it is non-interchangeable unit of data, in the sense that, like the Naira notes you have, there are so many people that have that Naira notes on the street. Take, for example, the Bitcoin as a currency, which is a digital asset. There are a lot of people that have that particular Bitcoin, and that particular Bitcoin can be split into smaller units. But in the case of NFTs, we are trying to define something that no other person has. So if you look at this particular two use case that I just made mention of, these two different classes of items, people have them. But for NFTs, it is just one of that particular item and just one that is available and cannot be split into smaller units. So let's take, for example, you have customized cars, and maybe they make only 7 in the world. You can definitely say that those particular type of cars are things that you cannot find in any other place around the world. So those particular type of items becomes non-fungible, which means they cannot be recreated easily. Just like this particular moment that we're having, we might never have this particular type of moment anytime again. So it can also be a real life experience, just like we have on this particular call. And at this particular time now, we are sharing different experiences together. The recording of this particular experience becomes an NFT-like item. So you can upload this particular thing. And if I have a large following, you have a large following, someone that is emotionally attached to this particular recording can now say, hi, I love this particular content, I love this particular art, I want to own it digitally and be the only one that can own it, and then be able to monetize it, which means that if that person makes an offer and then you sell the intellectual property to that person, it becomes a non-fungible intellectual property. So it actually transcends across both owning digital art, applying your intellectual property, and being able to also apply emotions to, which are moments that are captured as NFTs.
All right, Dominic, let's try and bring it closer home. When you talk of NFTs, what comes to mind is more of intellectual property, the arts, maybe the entertainment, But in Nigeria, we still have issues of copywriting and other laws associated with it. How do we bring all of that to the picture?
Okay, so with the issue of copywriting, one of the properties of the blockchain is the fact that it is immutable, right? Which means that whatever is placed on the blockchain cannot be altered. And what is the reason for this particular copywriting? People try to take things and alter and change data and try to put one or two things. So in the case of copywriting, what we can see is once artists now start putting their work on the blockchain, making them NFTs, they can be able to have a control in the sense of the demand and supply. One of the major reasons that accounts for the continuous price increase in other digital assets is the supply and demand the supply and demand factor. So once they put it on this particular blockchain, you can now say, okay, I want to have only 50,000 copies of this particular type of art, this particular type of music, just like we have seen the Taylor Swift and all of those other global artists do. They want to have 50,000 copies of this song as an NFT asset on the blockchain, and we're only going to sell that. And you cannot find that anywhere else in the world. The artist is also able to continually earn royalties on the sale of those particular NFTs. So right now, there's a high possibility that if you make your music, you put it in Alaba market, maybe when Mama OK is done or Papa John is done, they might not come and give you royalties, maybe because they actually dubbed that particular that particular song or that particular content. But with NFTs and them being on the blockchain, you continue to earn royalties for life, and it cannot be duplicated. You see, digital as it is, there is only one particular technology that curbs what is called double spending, which means that whatever is sent to you cannot be retained by the other party that is sending it. So that's one of the things that can actually make NFTs to be able to curb that particular problem of copywriting.
All right, right now, there seems to be a very huge demand, a huge market for NFTs, not just in Nigeria or Africa as it is really evolving, but also around the world. Tell us more about demand and supply risk. For when you talk about currencies in Nigeria, we talk about devaluation, but for NFTs, really, are there a risk of maybe it coming down in value or any of that?
Yes, just like with every economy, every asset, there are always risks associated with it. Now, the in-currency, okay, there are a couple of things the average Nigerian needs to know actually before you get into NFTs. You need to have a little knowledge of cryptocurrencies and have a little knowledge of DeFi. And then you use these cryptocurrencies, which is now the currency of the internet, to purchase these NFTs, right? And when you use these particular currencies to purchase this NFT, the thing is this currency, some of them are liquid across a lot of markets. But when you purchase these NFTs, there are some challenges in the sense that some of these NFTs, maybe you cannot sell them anymore, in the sense that the marketplace, after buying that particular NFT, there's no strong utility for that particular NFT, and the marketplace to be able to sell it is now not available. Well, you use a digital currency to buy it, right? Your hope is that after buying it with that digital currency, you might be able to exchange that NFT for another value. But in this case now, you are unable to do that. So that now defeats the liquidity of that particular NFT. So that's one major challenge that is affected with the liquidity around the NFT after using the digital currencies to buy it. I would like you to repeat the part B of your question so that we'll tackle it head on.
Okay. You will agree with me that NFTs are relatively new in Nigeria, and when it comes to regulation, the CBN is quick to wage in its sledgehammer on things like that when it comes to digital asset. The case of cryptocurrency is one that is still very fresh on our minds. Don't you think we should be looking at the direction of regulation so Nigerians can actually be prepared and actually be protected, as it were?
Actually, in terms of regulation, I would say yes, we should be looking at regulatory policies to be able to ensure that we have a safe marketplace for the NFT users in Nigeria. You see, Nigeria, some of the statistics that came to my table as one of the executive members of CBAN, so that Nigerians, about 13.7% of Nigerians interacting with the NFT world, much more than about the global population, which we are having, into the average of the global population, which is about 10.7%, which means that the marketplace the global marketplace of the world for NFTs, we have majority of them in Nigeria. So why would I say no to regulation coming into this particular market space? I mean, we have over about $169 billion locked in total valuation of this particular digital asset. And we see that Nigerian art creators are using NFTs to leverage the shift of art to the digital world. Because despite the government crackdown on cryptocurrency, they are increasing their net worth while at it. Nigerian regulators will continue to devise policies that will keep up with the technology. And we see that despite the lack of regulation, in 2018, we saw one of Nigeria's prominent artists, Jason Igwe. He submitted his work, he presented his work during the 2018 Ethereal Blockchain Summit. And during the COVID period, he sold some of those NFTs because he had already learned how to mint some of those NFTs, and he sold them for a huge amount of money. We also see a lot of other Nigerians like Grey Shadow. We also see Nigerians like Odion Toby, Oyindamola, Oyekemi. They are making so much wage in the NFT world without this regulation. And you see that Nigerians are using it to earn foreign income into foreign exchange into the country, and they are using it to interact with global finance. So regulation should come and quickly address some of the challenges that we're having. Especially with the marketplace, with the liquidity that is around the NFTs. And then some NFTs that have perceived value. When I say perceived value, in the sense that an influencer can talk about an NFT, because one of the challenges too is that the skill set around understanding this particular concept is not also available in the country. So an influencer can come talk about an NFT and people might have a perceived value on it. And meanwhile, that particular NFT does not have utility, does not have a roadmap, does not have where it is going to. And then Nigerians will ape in, which means they will buy in, and then maybe they will lose their money in the process because they will not be able to exchange their NFT for value. And what do you call an asset? An asset is anything that has a lot of liquidity around it, which means if you have an NFT that you are classifying as a digital asset, you want to also quickly liquidate that particular digital asset to cash. And since you cannot do it, you might now be blaming the regulators or the government for not putting in enough policies to be able to ensure that they safeguarded your money while you are trying to do it. Another thing that this regulation will try to do is to open up the market space for Nigerians. You know, currently we have like the dollar exchange rate, I think $20 per month, right? Or there about some banks less than $20. There are NFTs that are worth $1,000, $300, $500,000, $500. So how then do you want Nigerians to be part of this global economy with the limitation in bottleneck of payment? Then Nigerians will be missing out of it. Then Nigerians cannot join the third world, these particular first world countries in the terms of technological revolution that is going on with NFTs. And then, well, this regulation will ensure that they increase the limit for Nigerians to be able to spend FX and be able to get access to the best digital collectibles in the world. So I think regulation should come in quickly to be able to address all of these things that can actually make Nigeria, which is the giant of Africa, to start taking a back seat in this large technological revolution.
All right, so let's talk about the future of all of this now, NFTs and blockchain. It seems to be gaining a whole lot of momentum at such a rapid pace in Nigeria. So do you see this particular technology, this digital asset becoming the order of the day or the main currency the Nigerians will be trading on over time?
Yes, of course. Like I said, one of the go-to places, right? One of the major challenges is the fact that Nigerians don't have a skill set for a go-to place to be able to learn about this, to now ensure that we keep attracting a lot of foreign revenue that is coming into the country now from these different technological interactions. So the future actually holds a lot of bright hope for us. As you know, I'm an author in this particular technological space, or in this particular niche. One of the go-to place to really learn about all of this is vrem.co, which at that particular vrem.co, you see a lot of, we have about 20 different blockchain courses with about 107 different modules that addresses this particular skill set. It takes you from one step to another to now see that the future we're talking about is one that is mastered by Nigerians, and one that we are able to have enough engineers, enough blockchain tech savvy people that can actually interact with the tech, develop business solutions, ensure that we have good use cases. Let's take, for example, now, NFTs are unique identities, right? Let's say we want to take NFTs to start solving like ticketing problems in Nigeria. You know, in Nigeria, you have fake tickets that they sell in some of these concerts. So for the artists, they can say, like, Davido can say, I'm issuing out, instead of he wants to sell 10,000 tickets for maybe one particular arena. You issue out VIP tickets for your NFTs. Maybe you issue out 2,000 VIP NFTs. You issue out 3,000 VIP, less of that particular one, and then all of them are tied to the blockchain. Whenever they get to your event hall, they show their NFTs. They know that this person is a VIP, this person is entitled to this person is entitled to that. And this is the future in terms of what? Ensuring that people do not counterfeit this particular and forge things on the internet. Then let's talk about digital identity, or let's talk about the fact that this NFT, one of the feature of it is that some of these particular NFTs can give you access to specific communities that will now, okay, so before some people used to be part of some Rotary clubs, Shell clubs, and all of those things. Now, this particular centralized organizations before, they can grow into decentralized autonomous organizations, and they can start using NFTs to be able to manage those particular access points. So you have your community, you issue them out some NFTs, and then only people that have those NFTs, it's not like the key of the internet. So only people that have those things can access some special rights. Let's say, like for a station now, for me to gain some special access to maybe discounts on adverts, maybe discounts on one or two programs that you air.
All right.
Maybe you guys 100 NFTs at a point in time, and you gave it to your top 10 tech guys, and you say these top 10 guys, from every dividend that this company will earn, or whatever value they keep putting in this company, they will keep earning something. And as far as we have those NFTs, we become shareholders and value.
All right, Dominic. All right, Dominic, we must say a very big thank you to you for joining us. Let me take that again. All right, Dominic, we must say a very big thank you to you for joining us to share all of the insights concerning NFTs. It is actually a very wide, topic of discussion, and we must have to bring you back to throw more light in future. Thank you once again. Dominic Rume is the certified blockchain architect, and he joined us on the show today. Thank you yet again.
All right, thank you for having me. Have a nice day.
All right, away from all of that, the president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICANN, Comfort Eyitayo, says the body will continue to educate members with relevant trainings, skills, and technology to meet up with the evolving global trends. Eyitayo said this on the sideline of her official visit to the Lagos and District Society. Details in this package. Members of the Lagos and District Society welcomed their 57th president to Odina. Although the gathering is a relaxed one, issues affecting the accountancy profession take center stage. Top on the front burner is the relevance of accountants joining the profession and their lack of employability. However, all hope is not lost. The ICANN boss, flanked by other executives, hints of a silver lining.
We are establishing ICANN Academy, for instance, where we can also put them through the necessary training. Apart from their own professional continuous training, then we also have entrepreneurship initiative which we have started already. The aspect of that is to also those who want to go into practice, to make them see what it looks like, teach them the business aspect as well as the skill aspect.
So most of them know is people that the students, ICANN is one of the most difficult exams. People think they pass. So when you see anybody pass ICANN examination, he's so happy because he knows the rigor of the examination processes. Now, transferring that same zeal and what you have acquired into the fields. It's not the challenge ICANN is having.
Now, these may not be the best of times for the profession, as accountants are being challenged not only by the harsh economic circumstances of the nation, but also by pieces of regulations. They speak of how gaps in the Company and Allied Matters Act (CAMA) affect their practice.
The guiding rules of members of the Institute of Guidance and Accounting are accuracy and integrity. In natural sense, accountants, that's what is sought, is meant to defend both the profession and the organization it works for, safeguard its assets, and ensure that the resources of the organizations are safeguarded.
Now, some of the jobs that are supposed to be done by accountants, for instance, some of the provisions that talks about if your turnover is below 25 million, you are not supposed to pay tax. Good, very good provision. I mean, to be tax friendly to businesses. But now that means if you are not going to pay tax, that you don't prepare an account.
The ICANN president also condemned the continuous disregard for professionals in the civil service recruitment process. And that's the size of the show. Our Business Insight returns same time next week. I am Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for watching.
From north to south and east to west, life in Nigeria has become dangerously unbearable. The country is faced with what seems to be endless waves of homegrown security threats and violence. Nigerians live in fear, from terrorism to kidnappings, armed banditry, farmer header clashes, ethnic violence, and separatist agitation. To better understand the causes of the unrest, as well as the true agitations of the people, Searchlight travels across Nigeria.
The bandits, I use the dark place, the forest place, to hang around. When our drivers reach there, they will come out and start shooting them.
In fact, if I can give an estimate, I can say that in a week we used to treat not less than five gunshots.
Look, people and people living under siege.
Now, Owerri is too hot.
No rest of mind. Anybody.
If you sleep now, sleep with one eye closed, one eye open. Be vigilant. This is Igbora for you.
Igbora is one of the 7 communities that make up Ibarakwa land.
Ibarakwa land comprises of Igongon, Erua, Ayete, Takpa, Idere, Lanlate, and Igbora in Oyo State, Nigeria's southwest region. There is a long-standing history dating back to the early 20th century between settler herders who are mostly of Fulani descent and local farmers in the Ibarakwa axis. Recently, however, coexistence has become increasingly problematic as the communities are now plagued with kidnappings, farmer herder clashes, reprisal attacks leading to the forceful ejection of Sarakins and Fulanis in the area.
I have been back home here in Igbora since January because of the armed herders and farmers crisis
that has been rocking nearby villages and farms. Although the Sarakin Fulani of Ngongo, Salihu, was evicted in January on accusations that he was helping evade justice, not much has changed. There are still incidences of kidnappings and attacks on farmlands.
This is Shekere village in Igbora. We live in fear. I do come earlier in the day and could enter the farm. You would find their cattle eating crops, and when confronted, they attack the owners of the farm. If perchance they meet a woman unaccompanied on the farm, she could be raped. There is no safety on farmlands.
The nomadic ones are moving around. The residential ones, we know them. Some of the residential ones are still within the community. They are peaceful. One incident occurred when our people they are outraged and they burnt all the Karas in the whole Ibarapa land, even that of Elua. In Igbora here now, there is no Kara again.
If you had burnt all the Karas in the whole of Ibarapa land, I want to think that Kara is a place for residential Fulanis.
No, Kara is a spot, a market for them to come and buy and sell.
So you have burnt.
Do you know? Come,
their economic
let me tell you some things about that Kara. Some things we discover about that Kara, especially that of Igora here. That spot is a spot where they do hide their ammunitions. And in the night like this, they will pick up those ammunitions, go out, kidnaps, rob, anything they can do. And when they come back to town the following day.
Kabir, you've done a lot of work out of the Ibarapa land. What did you see? What do you know? Can you share your first-hand experience?
Not just in Igbora, not just in Lanlate, not just in Oyo State, but from my experience across the Southwest states, I realized that most of the killings, the kidnappings being perpetrated are being done by the Bororos, who are mostly referred to as foreigners. Some of these Bororos, they come into the country through Benin Republic, some through Cameroon, and you get to realize that in the essence of it all, some through Niger, that many of them are not the traditional Fulanis. And the reason is this: we've had cases where traditional Fulanis, those who are Nigerians, some of them who came from, who are from Kwara State, also alleged that they have also been kidnapped. They've also been victims of the attacks of these persons. Most times, those that perpetrate this they don't even have any cattle. All they have is gun, sword, and other weapons.
The violence doesn't end there. Nigeria is faced with the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast, banditry in the northwest, armed separatist agitations in the southeast, amid communal clashes in the middle belt, southwest, and south-south. Increasingly, violence between herders and farming communities is spreading from Nigeria's central belt southward, while kidnappings are rife nationwide. What exactly led to this?
When you see a failure of this scale, of this magnitude, and spread right across the country, the first thing that comes to mind is that somebody somewhere who has responsibilities to secure Nigerians has failed in their duties. There's no other explanation for this. So we have a country that is poorly run, poorly governed, and therefore unable to master the requirements of securing both citizens and the country itself. That is the first one. The second one is that there are a lot of opportunistic criminal activities going on. People understand the weaknesses, they perceive a weakness at the level of the state. They think the state is weak or the state is incapable of protecting citizens from all sorts of attacks, bandits, kidnappers, insurgencies, insurrections, secessionists, irredentists. All these people actually exist because the state has not been able to assert its obligation and responsibilities to protect citizens. And they're emerging and increasing by the day. The third one is the failure of the Nigerian elite to get together and demand that the Nigerian state does what it's supposed to do. The leadership does what they are supposed to do, that is to protect citizens. The voices that are supposed to be heard are not being heard. Too many people are quiet, either out of fear or because they think that they are not likely to make any impact if they don't raise their voices.
Traveling by road is now an extreme sport. On our trip to Kaduna State, we drove along the Kaduna-Biningwari Road. The 123-kilometer road trip seemed easy enough, but we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. From Buruku village, right on the outskirts of Kaduna, there is a fully armored vehicle with soldiers who lead drivers 3 cars at a time from Buruku to Odoa town. This stretch is considered to be the most dangerous. Drivers have to wait their turn as they stand no chance of traveling safely to and fro Biningwari without these escorts. From Odoa, the journey to Biningwari is considered safe from the kidnappers and terrorists, whose victims are not just travelers but also villagers and farmers in and around this long stretch of road.
Our major problem in this area is insecurity. These terrorists have wrecked our town and destroyed our source of livelihood. Nobody sleeps in this town anymore. We take refuge in the neighboring community and come here every day at 8 or 9 a.m. and then leave at 3 or 4 p.m. Look at me. I'm the village head of this community. I used to own a car, but these criminals made me sell it to pay ransom for our children. I can't estimate how much we have paid to bandits as ransom because this community has been attacked more than 25 times.
We have a lot of problems in terms of insecurity on our road, more especially in between Burku and Udawa. So we have a lot of insecurity. We have only one vehicle, which is mobile police. They are the one escorting our members to carry them to Burku. Let's say from January up to now, at least we lost more than 30 of our members as a result of the bandits.
Forests in Nigeria are now hideouts for cattle rustlers, highway robbers, kidnappers and terrorists due to the absence of state capacity or political will to exercise control. From Biningwari Forest in Kaduna to Rugu Forest in Katsina and Zafe in Zamfara, these forests are now referred to as ungoverned.
Arena is in Niger, Shiroro. From there you cross over to Polware.
What security measures have we put in place for farmers and the indigents that are easy prey to these bandits?
Well, I have explained to you that Kaduna is very vast. The state is so huge. We had over 46,000 square kilometers. And I have also explained to you that we are having this problem mostly in locations that are remote. You know, boundaries with Niger State, boundaries with Zamfara, boundaries with Katsina State. You know, the locations are very remote. Even if there's a distress call, before you get there, it takes you time because of the terrain, mobility problem. But the Air Force is complementing the ground troops and the police as well. Once we receive a distress call from a location that is very far, what we do, the Air Force move while the ground troops and the police form a blocking force, and it is really yielding positive mark. We don't have enough boots on the ground. There's a need for us to scale up recruitment. There's a need for security operatives or our security agencies to outnumber the criminals. We are not relenting. We are working and we are making progress. In the first quarter of 2021, we were able to neutralize 64 bandits.
Our schools, just like our roads, have become hotspots of violence. Across northwestern Nigeria, from Zamfara to Kebbi, Kaduna and Niger, about 1,000 students of primary schools, secondary schools and even universities have been kidnapped since December 2020. Most have been released after payment of ransom, while scores are still being held in forest camps. Some of these students have died in captivity and some killed during the abductions. Earlier this year, after the kidnapping of students at Government Science College, Kagara, Niger State, I asked the governor, Malam Abubakar Sani Bello, if a state could guarantee the safety of school children.
No one can guarantee that unless we have the numbers, the manpower of security personnel required. The Niger State, for example, during the military administrations, Niger State had 14,000 policemen. Today we have 4,000. Same Rafi local government where this kidnapping took place, Kagara town itself has less than 10 policemen. So how will it work? How? What magic could you do? We don't employ or employ policemen. I understand in the past, the state police command had the powers to employ policemen from the states, but it is no longer like that. And that's probably the reason why we're having problems.
That was back in March. Not much has changed since. Many have said that the present centralized structure of the Nigerian police is too detached from local communities. A vote conducted by NOI polls indicates that many Nigerians are in favor of state policing to bring security closer to the people. Experts say there is a need to reflect on the current security approach across the country.
The various institutions need to sit back and reflect that the current approaches that we are deploying to address security concerns, are they adequately addressing these issues? What are the intelligence mechanisms that you need to put in place to really get information on how crime is happening across various communities? So I think critically it is the model, it is the approach that seems to be a bit defective. We are practically waiting for violence to happen before we then react. We talk about community policing, especially for the police especially. I keep making reference to the police because they have the mandate when it comes to internal security. Community policing is very important. Then intelligence-led policing. We are not emphasizing that so much. Intelligence-led policing is that strategy through which you just want to get intelligence of what is happening in a certain community.
In the southeast, insecurity takes a different dimension. According to authorities, agitators for the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, a separatist group campaigning for Biafra independence, have been responsible for a spate of attacks on security forces and innocent people since December 2020. Olu, a local government in Imo State, has become a flashpoint of trouble in the region. On the 25th of January 2021, Many Hausa-speaking traders in the market in Olu were going about their business when gunmen invaded the area, killing some and setting shops ablaze.
It is very, very unfortunate that this kind of thing would happen in 21st century Olu, 21st century Imo, 21st century Nigeria. People are not happy with the things, with the way this country is being run. When you talk about security, there is no security in Nigeria anymore.
We are here at the Islamic Central Mosque, Amafeke, and this is the third Friday without holding a Jumat service here because of insecurity issues. There is a lot of apprehension amongst the Muslim community.
This is my third year living in Olu, and I have never had any ugly experience living here until recently. During the NSAS protest, they burnt our mosque and killed some of our members in some part of Olu town. For 3 weeks now, we have been unable to observe our Jumat prayers in this mosque. We now live in fear. More worrisome is the absence of security operatives in the town. Despite all these incidents, the governor has not visited us to assure us or condole with us.
Since the January attack, Olu has had no peace. The people are in constant fear as these gunmen, time after time, unleash violence, destroy shops, kill, and even behead people in the community. In the southeast and south-south regions at large, dozens of security officials have been killed. Biafra agitation and the violence going on in the southeast have been said to be an untoward way of expressing dissatisfaction about leadership failure on the part of all tiers of government.
Well, I feel that there are many voices in the conversation to deal with the disaffection that people have about the Nigerian state. There are many voices, and evidently his is just one of those voices. But that may not be the optimal route to go. There are so many benefits of a functional, democratic, sound constitutional state. But where there are imperfections, you will now begin to see the voice that Nnamdi Kanu echoes or propagates. War is terrible. Sometimes you think about it from a more glamorous point of view, but it's bloody, it's heinous, it's damaging, it destroys families, societies, and so on and so forth. So my preoccupation is for peace. Okay, peace arrives through legitimate constitutional routes. That is what is most paramount. No society can develop without peace. And in terms of the disaffection of those of us who are from the southeast goes, there's a need to hear us and to look at our grievances and to consider them on their merits.
The southeast substantially mirroring Boko Haram. We have not been able to understand and deal with the issue of IPOB. The Igbo leadership allowed IPOB and ESN too much ground to take too much ground to control what is going on in the southeast. So they misread the threat of organizations like IPOB. There was opportunism, crass opportunism. People thought maybe this IPOB will do for us what we want. They will get for the Igbo what the Igbo didn't get through the political process. And eventually now we are creating a monster. And it's a monster that is eating up the local environment, the same way Boko Haram ate up Borno and Yobe and parts of Adamawa. IPOB and ESN are eating up the southeast. The federal government is throwing the military at them, the same way they threw the military at Boko Haram, rather than trying to understand the real issue. What is behind IPOB? Who supports them? Why do they support them? What is the issue that has made IPOB attractive to a large number of young people? Can you do something about it? Is it something you need to do about it?
I would say that the Southeast governments can do a whole lot better. The state governments, they can do a whole lot better in delivering services to the various constituent parts of the Southeast. We don't see enough of government in our rural communities, in the local government. We need to raise the bar as per the effectiveness of subnational entities. All right. Once we've gotten to a point where we can say for certainty that the state governments are operating optimally and delivering their own share of the governance dividend, then we can look elsewhere to seek inputs. But state governments in the Southeast need to up their game.
The Nigerian police force, on whose shoulder the responsibility of protecting the nation lies, is unable to perform its basic functions, forcing the Nigerian military to step in.
A society gets the kind of police that it pays for. Over the years, successive administrations have not made the connection around policing and development. So they just see the police as, oh, that is the police, and not critically putting it in the position of primacy, because people need to be safe internally first. You need to take care of the internal enemy before you begin to look at those ones that are threatening you on the outside. So over the years, there's been consistent underfunding, which is very, very critical. You want to undertake police operation, it has to do with funds, it has to do with state-of-the-art technology, equipment, and all of that. And then the manpower, less than 400,000 police personnel currently police a country of over 200 million. So what it means is that there is inadequacy somewhere. The police right now is overstretched. The country is very big and diverse. And then if you look at the scale of insecurity that is happening, it changes rapidly. So what it means is that the security landscape is not constant. You understand? So the police is trying to really grapple with all of this in the midst of very meager resources in terms of training, in terms of equipment, in terms of manpower, and every other thing. Government's approach in trying to address some of these inadequacies by the police has been to set up committees, police reform committees. But the question again is that each of these successive government that comes in, set up a committee, do they make reference to the last committee to say, okay, what did my predecessor, found when he talk about policing challenges? How can I build upon that and actually implement this to make the police effective? But no, our approach has been that, okay, I get into office and then I'm setting up my own committee.
Though the carnage isn't over yet, in more recent times, the joint military effort of the Nigerian Army and the Nigerian Air Force has recorded more success in combating terrorists and criminals.
In the last few months, the synergy and jointness among the three services has been cordial and overwhelming, which has resulted in the decimation of most of the criminal elements we have in this country.
While Nigeria may or may not reform its police soon, critics say the new conception of security now places emphasis on human and non-military variables, saying even the best of soldiers and policemen may be unable to maintain security in a country with a whopping 33% unemployment rate. Nigeria cannot solve its insecurity problems in isolation of other developmental issues. Where we go from here depends on our ability as a people, a government, and a nation to make the urgent steps needed to pull our country, Nigeria, from the brink.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on PlusTvAfrica.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on PlusTvAfrica, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@PlusTvAfrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Furniture is one of the most important home accessories. It adds style and elegance beside their primary functional designs. They contribute to the beautification and aesthetics of a place. The world production of furniture is estimated at over $350 billion, out of which the Nigeria's market share is 50 billion naira. The furniture industry has improved in Nigeria from just the roadside carpentry to the creative arts of combining wood, metal, cushion to give glamour and beauty to chairs, tables, wardrobes, cabinets, and other household furniture. The market for the furniture industry would always be in demand because everyone needs furniture for countless reasons. In Lagos, there is a furniture market where you find all types of artisans, materials, and tools for furniture making. The market is well coordinated with a chairman and organized rules.
Wà láyé ọjà wa yìí ó mọ̀ lọ bí 70 bí 70 ọdún. Tí mo bá wò dáadáa ọ̀nà karùn-ún níbi tá a wà yìí. A ti kọ́kọ́ wà ní Watchtower ní Ṣómólúrí. Wọ́n ń pè ibì kan ní Enípákó ní Onípànù ńbẹ̀ yẹn. Àwa náà lè Nípákó tá wà ńbẹ̀ nígbà náà lọ́hùn. Lẹ́yìn ìgbà yẹn a ti tún wà ní ilé epo Àjíìpù tó wà ń Fádèyí ibi tí bíríìjì ẹlẹ́sẹ̀ wà ń jọ sí. Lẹ́yìn tá a kúrò ńbẹ̀ la ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ wá lọ sí Káyọ̀dé níbi táwọn onírin wà nísìn. A kúrò ńbẹ̀ ní 1977 la wá wọ́ síbí báyìí. Ká tó wá débí báyìí ilé kiri pé kí ọjà ó dìgbà tó bá ń yá kán ní ká kúrò lórí ilẹ̀ àwọn ọlọ́dani tó fún wa ńlẹ̀ tàbí ẹbí tó fún wa ńlẹ̀ ló mú kí àwọn bàbá wa àgbà náà lọ́hùn kí wọ́n gbé ìgbésẹ̀ lórí ká gba ilẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba ìpínlẹ̀ Èkó láyé LSDPC. So àtìgbà yẹn la ti wá béèrè fún ilẹ̀ tó jẹ́ pé ó jẹ́ àyè ibi tíjọba yà sọ́tọ̀ fún kátàkárà tàbí iléeṣẹ́. Ìdí tó gbé wa débí nìyẹn. So ìjọba Lagos State ló fún wa níbí láyé LSDPC. Èmi lálága karùn-ún. Àwọn alága tán ti lọ. Ẹ̀yẹn la ní John Oyè. Bàbá dàgbà wọn wá sọ́jà mọ́. Ó di mẹ́ta bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn. Gbà tí bàbá dàgbà tán wá sọ́jà wọn ni Ṣùbẹ́rù Àkànó. Nànà wà tún bọ́ síbẹ̀. Àwọn kú ní April 2016. Gbà yẹn ló ṣẹ̀ wá kan èmi Isiaka orí oyè. Títí dìgbà tá a wá wà yìí. Kì í ṣe pé a lè lé 105 èèyàn. Èyí táyìn lóyìnbó ń pè ní 500. Jù bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ ní omi ò sọ pé 500 jù bẹ́ẹ̀ lọ. Àtẹnírà àtẹníntà. A lè 105. Lọ́kùnrin lóbìnrin. A kà wọn ọmọọṣẹ́ ẹ̀kọ́ṣẹ́ o tó yẹ pé ń kọ́ṣẹ́ furniture upholsterer, weather, oríṣiríṣi iṣẹ́ tó jẹ mọ́ building materials, tó jẹ mọ́ nǹkan kọ́lé, torí níta base lé lórí gan nìyẹn. Àti pákó, plywood, oríṣiríṣi nǹkan kọ́lé tó dérí páànù, cement, kọ́kọ́rọ́ ìṣó, gbogbo nǹkan kọ́lé. Àwọn kan wà tán tó ń kọ́ lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ báyìí. Àwọn kan wà tó yẹ pé ibi náà ti kọ́, ibi náà tún wà. 100 tètè ẹ̀ ní àjùbá ń lọ. Àpọ̀. Lórí ti environmental tó sọ, wàá rí pé ńgbà tí wọ́n náà débi láàárọ̀ yìí ò lè wọlé. A ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ environmental lágo 7. A parí ẹ̀ lágo 9:30 tó ra nígbàgbọ́ nú Ọlọ́run. Tá a bá dúró lágo 9:30 yẹn kò sẹ́ni tó gbọ́dọ̀ tajà hàn ní tàwọn ò ní rà. Environmental gbogbo ọjà ti mọ́. So mùsùlùmí á gbàdúrà. Àwọn ẹgbẹ́ ní àjọ nígbàgbọ́ àwọn náà á gbàdúrà. Ìyẹn ló máa gbé lágo 10. Kálukú tó pa sẹ́nu iṣẹ́ gẹ́gẹ́ bí ètò tíjọba filẹ̀. Bọ́jà wa yìí ṣe tó yẹ àti bó ṣe rí, o lè rí ibi tán gbé ń ta ọtí ń bì. Tó dẹ́ni tó ti mu tí yó, ó lè hùwà kíwà. Àgbà kéèyàn ó jalè, ẹni bá ti jalè, a máa lè kúrò lọ́jà ni. Àdẹ̀gbà kéèyàn ó jà. Gbogbo nǹkan tó wù kó lè rí bó ṣe bí ẹni tó wá fẹjọ́ sùn alága. Tó bá ti dọ́dọ̀ alága pe àwọn ọmọ ìgbìmọ̀. Agbọ́tọ̀ tún agbá tòsì. Ní tó bá yẹ ká fi ṣàtúnṣe bẹ̀ á dẹ̀ ṣe. A lè dẹ́lòmíì lẹ́jọ́ pé ókè lọ gbélé ọ̀sẹ̀ 2. Ẹni tí ń tajà ojoojúmọ́ tó máa ń tó ń rí lójúmọ́ ta ni kó lọ gbélé ọ̀sẹ̀ 2, ọ̀sẹ̀ kan. Tó bá padà dé ṣe mọ̀ para àárọ̀. N tó mú jà wájọ́ sí tírú ẹ̀ bá ti ń bọ̀. A mọ̀ pé kó ń lọ fẹjọ́ sùn. Ó ń lọ nà àbáyọ. So ara àwọn ètò tán bàbá rẹ̀ ti làálẹ̀ nìyẹn. Ó dẹ̀ wà bẹ́ẹ̀ títí dè ní ìní àbí ó dẹ̀ ṣe máa rí lọ náà nìyẹn. Àgbà owó àgbà pọ̀ lọ́wọ́ àwọn èèyàn bí kì í ṣe pé irú ilẹ̀ nísìnyí ìdọ̀tí tán bá lò nígbà bá fẹ́ sanwó lọ́mà ṣe mọ̀ pé ó di dandan. So à ń gbà yẹn lówó tí ò ga àwọn èèyàn lára tó jẹ́ pé kò tiẹ̀ ní wọ́n lára ńgbà tí a ti wà bá ṣe fi wà yẹn. Kò sówó kan tá à ń gbà kọjá owó ìsọ̀tán bá rẹ́ǹtì tán sanwó ẹ̀ lọ́dún. Kò sí owó túláàsì kan tó ìnájà kan àbọ̀wọ̀n rajà kan bí wàá lè sọ pé wọ́n ń gbà lọ́wọ́. Àgbowó car park, àgbowó ilé ìgbẹ́ ilé ìtọ̀, gbogbo ẹ̀dẹ̀ la ní tó yẹ pé tí ọ̀gán bá tiẹ̀ débẹ̀ wàá fẹ́ lè sùn bẹ̀ pé ṣé bí náà dẹ̀ lẹ pè nílé ìgbẹ́ lẹ pè nílé ìwẹ̀ nílé ìtọ̀ tá a tọ́jú gbogbo ẹ̀ gẹ́gẹ́ bí nǹkan tí Lagos State fẹ́. Owó ìgbàlẹ̀ náà wá ń yẹ̀ wá wò. Lagos State yẹn wọn yé wá, wọ́n wá láti Aláùsá, wọ́n wá láti local government. Ẹgbẹ́ nípákó ní Lagos State gan àwọn gan tún wá tó ra jẹ́ kókó kan nínú ọjà tó jẹ́ ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ Lagos State Building Materials and Building Materials Association ajẹ́ kókó kan. So bá a ṣe ń tò díẹ̀díẹ̀ nìyẹn tọ́lọ́ndẹ̀ ń fún wa tó. Challenge ta ní pọ̀ díẹ̀ ó kàn yẹ pé bórílẹ̀-èdè wa ṣe fi ń lọ ni. Tí gẹ́gẹ́ bí wọ́n náà ṣe rí ńgbà tẹ wọnú ọjà àwọn iṣẹ́ tó ń jáde níbí báyìí ọ̀pọ̀ ẹ̀ ní tán bá gbé déta tán bá sọ fún wọn pé wọ́n import ẹ̀ ni wọ́n ní jiyàn torí aláwọn òṣìṣẹ́ tí wọ́n kájú ẹ̀ anything furniture bó jẹ́ ìtàn fi irin ṣe bó jẹ́ ìtàn fi igi ṣe bó jẹ́ ìtàn fi bọ́ọ̀dù plywood ṣe ṣùgbọ́n ọ̀pọ̀ nǹkan tá à ń wí ló nídìí ọ̀pọ̀ owó materials tá a dẹ̀ ń lò jù local materials ní tó yẹ jẹ́ pé tán bá ṣe finishing ẹ̀ tán tiẹ̀ tún dájú tìlú tán gbé alátòkèrè lọ irú ẹ̀ tí wọ́n ti kó jáde láàárọ̀ yìí wọ́n náà pàdé nǹkan tán jáde lọ nígbà tí wọ́n ṣí géètì tá a pàdé environmental lẹ́ẹ̀kan so gbogbo orú àwọn kan báwọn yẹn ṣùgbọ́n kíjọba ó gbégbèsè àti kún wa lọ́wọ́ kí nǹkan yẹn lè di tí ó kárí gbogbo Áfíríkà tí ò ní mọ Nàìjíríà nìkan bọ́jà wa ṣe fi rí yìí láti Àbújá àwọn kan wà tó yẹ pé ní showroom wọn ibi náà ti wọ́n produce sales wọn ọjà tó ń tà ibi náà ti ń ṣe tán lọ kó sí showroom náà báyìí ti tan náà sí adúpẹ́ lọ́dọ̀ Ọlọ́run fi ń pọ́n wa ló dẹ̀ fi ń yìn wá so tíjọba bá kún wa lọ́wọ́ nípa pé kán finance wa béèyàn bá ṣe lówó ṣòwò mọ́ ni a ṣe jèrè mọ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ náà dẹ̀ ni a ṣe rágbéga lẹ́nu òwò yẹn tó wò ní nìyẹn wàá rí i pé ẹni tó ń fi 1,000 ṣòwò èrè ẹ̀ ò lè dàbí ẹni tó ń fi 10,000 ṣe ẹni tó ń fi 1 million ṣòwò a lè fi wẹ́n ẹni tó ń fi 50 million ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn bá ṣe lówó ṣòwò mọ́ náà lè rí ẹ̀ ó ṣe pọ̀ tó náà dẹ̀ ni ayé á fi mọ̀ ọ́ sí.
Well, I've been in the business for a very long time because I started the business with my dad around 1985. I'm still in secondary school then. At earlier stage, I have the mind of be a first man, but my dad said he want me to go into business because he have a lot of achievement that he made in doing the business. And as time goes on, I later joined my dad in doing the business. I later have interest in doing the wood business. I give glory to Almighty God because the business is a good business, and if you can try to have interest in what you are doing, at least I know that you never regret in doing whatever you are doing. We have a lot of different type of woods that is even uncountable, most especially in Southwest here. We get wood from different states in Nigeria here. Starting from anything from Ijebu, the Shagam, Ore, Bini, Ondo, Idori, Owo, Ifon, Sobe, Agbanikaka Empire in Onwa, all that kind of. We get wood in many different states in Nigeria here. Just for example, we have mahogany. Mahogany is a redwood and they're used for furniture wood, just like bed, shelf, door, architrave, and so on. They're used for many things. We also have black afara, we have Mazonia, we have teak, we have Abora, we have Idigbo, we have Eku, and so on and so forth. And that's what we are even be using for a very long time in Nigeria here before they started bringing the imported board and all these things. The wood serve more longer than the board. The board have different type. You have the one that lasts longer, and which we have the one that don't even last longer. But I still prefer, due to me, I still prefer the wood than using the board. If I'm doing anything in my house, I always prefer using the wood. The difference there is not very much, but difference between the local one, the local board, and the wood that we use here, the wood lasts longer than the imported board, and most of this imported board, they process the wood here, which they even take down to that place to go and made as board, and they'll still bring it back for us here. That due to the government, because the government supposed to even work on that, which if at all, if something will even happen like that, what we have here, they're supposed to produce it here. Not that they will take it over there and they later do the processing and they later bring it for us here, which is not even an idea. I didn't even support that. We encounter a lot of challenges on that because bringing the imported boards down to Nigeria make the wood business to go down, which at least the way we even enjoy doing the business, the wood business before, is quite different from the way we enjoy it now. In Nigeria, yeah, some people know the quality of the wood, which they still patronize us. Most especially, some of my father's customers that they are in old age, they normally even tell their children and most of their colleagues and family that if you want to do something like this, it's even more better for you to go for wood, because now people are now coming back to get the wood and to use it for whatever they want to use it than before that. Everybody just faced the imported material that this was, but because what they see that they gain a lot, and the time of using the Nigeria something here, they see that is even more lasting than using the imported wood. Under the normal procedure, you're supposed to learn whatever you want to do. Probably because if you don't even learn, you will not be able to go far in doing it, because along the line, you see people that they will tell you that they want to supply you wood. At the end of the day, they will just collect money from you, and which something will not be done. But once you learn what you want to do. After all, if anybody even want to bring what is not supposed to bring into the business, you say, no, that's not the way I'm supposed to go. This is the right way I'm supposed to go. It depends on how the person have the sense and the knowledge of learning. Because some people may even be there between 1 year, they will capture whatever they want to capture about learning about the wood or to do a wood business. But some people, they have a dull brain. Maybe they will use about 3 to 4 years.
wàá rí i pé mo sọ ọ́nà ọ̀rọ̀ mi pé à ń tà à ń rà ni àwọn ọlọ́dàn ni tí wọ́n wá rẹ́ǹtì ṣọ́ọ̀bù ń bí ọ̀pọ̀ wọn ni wọ́n na pàápàá àwọn ọmọ kéékèèké ìsìn ìmíì parí ní polytechnic àwọn tó parí lọ́fà tó parí yaba tó parí káàkiri tẹ́ pé bíi náà tí wọ́n á ń ṣiṣẹ́ wọn so àwọn ọmọ yẹn ń gbé sórí social media but àwa gẹ́gẹ́ bíi bàbá ọjà tẹni lọ́jà àwọn ò tí ì wọ social media tó mọ̀ pé ayé jọ́sí ńlòbí ń sọ fọ́mọ pé iṣẹ́ ìdandan ni kò kọ́ níbi tí ayé dé nísìn iṣẹ́ tó bá wu ọmọ láti kọ́ nígbà tó ọmọ báyìí ti sọ fún ìyá àti bàbá ẹ̀ pé iṣẹ́ yìí ló wu òun kọ́ àwọn tó mọ̀ wá ń bí báyìí tán mọ irú nǹkan tó ń jáde ń bí àwọn amọ̀mọ̀ wá sọ́dọ̀ ọ̀gá tí wọ́n mọ̀ tó ń ṣiṣẹ́ lábẹ́ àkóso ọjà títí wa tírú ọ̀gá yẹn bá ti wá gbọmọṣẹ́ yẹn á jẹ́ káwa tá a já lákòóso ọjà ó mọ̀ pé ọmọọmọṣẹ́ kan wá fóun o iṣẹ́ báyìí tó fẹ́ kọ́ rẹ̀ iṣẹ́ tó fẹ́ ṣe rẹ̀ á dẹ̀ fàdúrà sí pé kán máa lọ ṣe irú àwọn bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn pọ̀ tó jẹ́ pé ńgbà kọ́ṣẹ́ tán ibi náà ti tó ń ṣiṣẹ́ yẹn náà tán bá ti kọ́ṣẹ́ yẹn èyí tó bá ráyè síbi á dúró ń bí èyí tí ò ráyè bọ̀tọ̀ pọ̀ wọn gan-an dúró ń bí torí wọ́n mọ nǹkan tí ibi ń bí ẹ sì mọ̀ pọ̀rọ̀ ṣẹ́rè ó kò èèyàn mọ̀ tán bọ́n bá kọ́ ṣiṣẹ́ mi tó bá dàbí pé ó fẹ́ pa wọn lórí asáré lọ fún bọ́ọ̀gá tó kọ́ wọn àwọn ọ̀gá tó pọ̀ mí sọmọ pé ọ̀tọ̀ lọ̀gá ọ̀tọ̀ tún ní ọ̀gá so wọ́n pọ̀ mí báyìí bẹ́ẹ̀ ìgbà tí state government fún wa nílẹ̀ ń bí ọ̀pọ̀ nǹkan náà máa fún wa ṣùgbọ́n nígbà tán tiẹ̀ ti fún wa nílẹ̀ tá a ti ń rí bí tajà wa rajà wa àwa náà ò béèrè mọ́ òbọ̀ tó bá gbé wa lọ́la à ń retí ẹ̀ o tó dáadé wa ni kò máa fún wa ní transformer tó máa fún wa níná ìgbà tán ò fún wa la lọ rà fúnra wa wọn làwọn ò fún wa ní tar road àwa la mọ̀ bá ń ṣe ń ṣe ọ̀nà wa ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ tóbi dórí omi but bí náà ṣe ń wá ìgbà tí nepa tí nàìjíríà ń rí bákan láti ìgbà kan tí náà ò déédéé ọ̀pọ̀ wa láti ra generator ọ̀pọ̀ àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ yẹn torí ń gbèyàn bá gbaṣẹ́ níṣẹ́ tí nepa fún wa níná tó dẹ̀ lásìkò tó dá fún eníṣẹ́ ò ní fẹ́ gbọ́ pé iná ni ò sí ó mú kápọ̀ wa ra generator gbogbo àwọn ọmọ táwọn wí gbogbo àwọn ọ̀gá wọn yìí náà ní generator tán fi ń ṣiṣẹ́ wọn.
The furniture market is not without its challenges. The unavailability of raw materials and the constant lack of power supply does not just affect the furniture industry, but the Nigerian manufacturing industry as a whole.
Challenges pọ̀ gan-an níbi iṣẹ́ ìgbà míì wà tó yẹ pé iná máa disturb wa ní rí iná ṣiṣẹ́ generator tá a dẹ̀ ń lò kò powerful bí iná ó ti yé yín so àwọn challenges tá a máa ń face a máa ń dojú kọ lórí iṣẹ́ nìyẹn so táwọn oníṣẹ́ bá dẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ fẹ́ gbéṣẹ́ kò dẹ̀ sí nǹkan tá a lè ṣe ju pé ká wá miss láti fi parí iṣẹ́ yẹn iná generator náà la lè lò.
nípa bá a ṣe ń sanwó gẹ́gẹ́ bí olórí àti ìgbìmọ̀ ẹni bá ti múná nínú wọn torí gbogbo wọn kọ́ ló ń lo ná ìbá àwọn tó ń lo ná nínú wọn àti ní levy tí a fi wọ́n sí orí ẹ̀ wọ́n dẹ̀ ti mọ̀ páwọn láti sanwó yẹn a tún wá ṣe débi pé ìjọba ní ká máa lọlé láago 6 tá a bá lọlé tán àwọn ìgbìmọ̀ kan wà tí a ṣètì kalẹ̀ hàn tó bí hàn 8 àwọn èèyàn ní lọlé láago 6 wọ́n á yí ká gbogbo ọjà a dẹ̀ ṣe àwọn ṣúìsì kan síta tó yẹ pé òun ló control gbogbo nǹkan téèyàn ń lò ní workshop ẹ̀ tó ní on and off so àwọn ìgbìmọ̀ tí wọ́n máa patrol yẹn gbogbo nǹkan tí fuse tán ṣe síta yẹn tó ti ní on and off yẹn náà máa wò wọ́n bá ti rẹ́ni tó gbàgbé tiẹ̀ ńgbà tó ń lọ lé ó wà ní on ńgbà tó ń lọ bóyá ó pẹ́ kó tó palẹ̀ mọ́ wá ń sáré jáde lọ pé kí gbìmọ̀ ọjà máa mú òun kò rántí pa àwọn gbìmọ̀ 6 8 yẹn àná máa lọ wọ́n máa pa àwọn èèyàn kúrò lọ́jà nìkan bíi 20 or 6:30 yóòjúmọ́ dẹ̀ nìyẹn àfijọ́ Sunday nìkan tá a bá wá yóòjúmọ́ là ń ṣe yẹn gbogbo wọn yẹn náà n tó ti ṣe wá rí ó jẹ́ ká gbẹ́ bùrú ọ̀rọ̀ kámọ̀bàrógun iná mọ́ ni a dẹ̀ dúpẹ́ lọ́dọ̀ Ọlọ́run láti gbà náà tí pé bóyá èèyàn dẹ̀ ń jalè a lè pọ̀ tó yìí ká mọ̀ rí ọmọ ẹ̀yìn 12 péré ni Jésù ní tí Júdásì ẹyọ kan ya nǹkan mọ́ lọ́wọ́ ká mọ̀ àṣọ bá a ṣe pọ̀ tó yìí bá a bá tiẹ̀ wá gbúrò orú ẹ̀ àwọn olè pé kọ́mọṣẹ́ ó jí bọ́ọ̀dù ọ̀gá kó jí ṣó tàbí kó tọ́ bọ àpò ọ̀gá àbí wọ́n fi fóònù síbì kan ó wo bí kò réèyàn kankan ó mú irú àwọn olè bẹ́ẹ̀ ni tán bá rẹ̀ ti lè mú lọ́sàn-án bẹ́ẹ̀ tán mú wá kò sí rẹ̀ lóru torí àwa ò sí lọ́jà mọ́ ọ̀dẹ́dẹ̀ ti wà but lọ́sàn-án tán bá ti mú wá bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn á pe àwọn ọmọ ìgbìmọ̀ òfin ti wà bí mo ṣe sọ lẹ́ẹ̀kan pé èèyàn gbọ́dọ̀ mutí lọ́jà wa ń bì èèyàn gbọ́dọ̀ jalè èèyàn dẹ̀ gbọ́dọ̀ jà so ẹni bá ti jalè òwe tá àṣà táwọn ń dá fún ni pé ó ti di irú ẹ̀ kalẹ̀ ó ti fòṣù kálé rí kẹgbẹ́ ó kàn gbèrú ká sì síta ni ẹni bá ti jalè ń lọ ni bẹ́ẹ̀ lẹ́ni ó bá mutí.
The sector needs to be empowered because it has a great potential to provide not just employment but contribute to internal revenue for the country.
Fever is a clinical condition where there's an elevation of the body temperature above normal. Many times, the regular body temperature is between 35.5 degrees Celsius to about 37.4 degrees Celsius. Anything above that can be classified as fever. In some cases, there's a difference between fever and hyperthermia. Especially when the person has been exposed to a hot environment, coming out from a hot sun, or a natural raised body temperature. But aside that, once there's a raise in body temperature beyond 37.4, you can classify that as fever. There are several causes of fever in children. One of them includes sepsis. Sepsis means the invasion of the body by microbes, by bacteria, or by microbes generally, which could be either bacteria, fungi, or even virus, right? That is sepsis. Okay, it could be parasitemia, especially more in our local environment where there's malaria. Okay, it could cause fever. Other conditions could be dehydration is one major cause of fever, just like a regular car. When there's an overheating, you know that the water is drying up. Same way it is even in a child, especially when they are dehydrated, they are prone to having fever. These are the major causes of fever. There are several other causes of fever that can happen, but key factors are one, sepsis, which is the invasion of microbes, and especially when there are open wounds. Maybe there's poor hygiene in situations where there's stooling and vomiting. There could be inhalation of microbes. An example, in cases of asthma, bronchopneumonia, there would always be fever. So most of these clinical conditions where there are infective causes will produce fever. Other causes, like I've just said, parasitemia, things like especially malaria will produce fever. And lastly, dehydration will produce fever. Well, practically, fever in itself is a symptom. So what are the symptoms to look out for in fever? Is the raised body temperature. But more importantly, when there is a raised body temperature, it comes occasionally with some degree of weakness, some degree of unwellness. Many other times, the fever could come with thirst. There could be a need for a lot of thirst. That's when you also know that dehydration is one of the causes. One of the other things to look out for is any other surrounding symptom around that fever. And of course, any other surrounding symptom. For example, open wounds, like I've said, and any form of infection. First, every mother should have a thermometer. You don't say that my child has fever because you touched the child. Oof, it's hot. Fever is not measured by your hand. It's measured by a certain device called a thermometer. And it's simple. There's a handheld thermometer and there is the thermometer, the auxiliary thermometer or the mercury thermometer. Now, this particularly tells you this fever. The moment you notice fever in your child, that's not when you're rushing to get all kinds of syrup. The first thing is to expose that child. Now, one thing I failed to mention is that fever sometimes could come with chills, depending on the age of the child, come with chills. In worsened situations for older children, it could come with rigor. So that person, the child is feeling cold and asking to turn off all the fan, and in other conditions is already shaking. Now, this shakiness is because the body is trying to produce heat, and so is vibrating, all right? Now, when you notice that because the child is feeling cold doesn't necessitate covering and turning on the fan. No, that's even when you expose. That's when you want to tepid sponge. Tepid sponging means dipping a towel into normal water and tabbing over the body. It's not bathing with cold water or ice blocked water, right? So you use normal water and tepid sponge, wrap around until that temperature comes down. If that temperature is not able to come down with that, you can advance to the use of simple drugs like paracetamol. The use of paracetamol has almost no contraindication, especially if you follow the prescription. So when you use it the first time, you could do as much as 6 hourly, all right? But if you do for 1, 2, 3 times, and this fever is relapsing and going and coming back with the use of paracetamol, I think that's the right time to go to your doctor. Now, many times many mothers want to use ibuprofen. I don't recommend that you go as far as using ibuprofen. You could use it, but use it on your way to the hospital to see your doctor. So basically, fever is one of the most predominant conditions in children, and it can, if not properly managed, especially in children between the ages of 6 months to 6 years, it can result into something we call febrile convulsion, where the child begins to shake, and of course that damages the brain. So in other words, you must prevent the escalation of fever by constantly controlling it. And if you do that for 24 to 48 hours and that child is not getting better, I advise you go see your doctor. My final word is that fever is not a symptom on its own. Many things cause it. You don't treat the fever, you treat the cause of fever. Fever many times comes with association, and you want to find out what are the other associations. And when you take a close history, you see that that fever has progressed into something else, maybe cough, maybe stooling, maybe diarrhea. These symptoms help the clinician to find out what is wrong with the patient.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamode Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require a permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today. This message is from PlusTvAfrica.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the back.
Good morning, I am Adebanke Odunui and this is the news update. President Muhammadu Buhari has condemned the killing of a second-year student of Shehu Shagari College of Education, Sokoto, Deborah Samuel, following an allegation that she had blasphemed Muhammad SAW, the Prophet of Islam. The president, in a statement issued by his media aide, Garba Shehu, in Abuja, said the news of the killing of the young lady by fellow students was a matter of concern. According to him, the case demands an impartial, extensive probe into all that happened before and during the incident. The president noted that Muslims all over the world demand respect for the holy prophets, including Isaiah and Jesus Christ and Muhammad SAW, but where transgressions occur, as alleged to be the case in this situation, the law does not allow anyone to take matters into their own hands. Meanwhile, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has described the killing of Deborah Samuel as deeply distressing. Osinbajo, who spoke with newsmen in Abuja shortly after his arrival from Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, said it is worthy of note that the President Muhammadu Buhari and the Sultan of Sokoto also condemned the incident. He commended the swift reaction of the Sokoto state government and the Sultan of Sokoto for their swift reaction to the incident, and also condoled with the family of the deceased, praying God will comfort those she left behind. And students of Adekunle Ajasin University, Akungba Akoko, have protested against the prolonged strike by ASU. The students blocked the popular Akungba Link Road, thereby causing a traffic jam. Armed with placards with various inscriptions, the aggrieved students said they were tired of staying at home and the inability of the federal government to accede to the demands of the striking lecturers. And President Muhammadu Buhari bade farewell to the outgoing members of the Federal Executive Council, FEC. He affirmed that a significant number of them have been sufficiently equipped to aspire to higher elective offices, including the office of the president. And Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has disclosed that his main priority for joining the presidential race is to serve Nigerians selflessly and not for personal or political pursuit. Professor Osinbajo spoke at the palace of Ewi of Ado-Ekiti, Oba Rufus Adejugbe in Ado-Ekiti, the Ekiti state capital. This was in continuation of his consultations with stakeholders and APC delegates across the country ahead of the primaries. Osinbajo added that working under President Muhammadu Buhari, whom he described as a transparent and honest leader, is one of the things that has prepared him for the bigger task in leading the nation in 2023. And in other parts of Africa, Somalia will hold a long-awaited presidential election on Sunday, ending months of delays with the new leader set to confront huge challenges, including a grinding Islamist insurgency and a punishing drought that has sparked famine fears. The troubled nation has been grappling with the political crisis since February 2021, when President Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed term ended without a new vote. The 39 candidates include the incumbent, better known as Farmajo, as well as past presidents Sharif Sheikh Ahmed and Hassan Sheikh Mohammed and former Prime Minister Hassan Ali. And outside Africa, lengthy queues for COVID-19 tests have remained in Beijing as China's capital city maintained its fight against a small but persistent outbreak. Authorities had already banned dine-in services at restaurants, leading to busy scenes outside a shopping mall as a raft of delivery personnel picked up food orders from a makeshift collection center. 34-year-old medical worker Yu, who only provided her surname, said that the epidemic has brought a relatively large psychological impact to everyone and that everyone is anxious. She said, "I think many people may need to see a psychiatrist after the epidemic is over." And moving on to business news, the World Bank has said that Nigeria's oil production declined in 2021 due to a lack of maintenance and a loss of infrastructure efficiency, and that the country was yet to benefit from increasing oil prices as a result of declining oil production and fuel subsidy. The Washington-based bank said this in a new report titled Migration and Development Brief titled A War in a Pandemic, Implications of the Ukraine Crisis and COVID-19 on the Global Governance of Migration and Remittance Flows. In a different World Bank report titled Global Flaring and Venting Regulations, 28 case studies from around the world, it was disclosed that within almost a decade, oil production declined by 40% in Nigeria. And in entertainment news, Ukraine's Kalush Orchestra looks set to ride a wave of public sympathy to win the Eurovision Song Contest when performers take to the stage in the Italian city of Turin on Saturday night. Kalush Orchestra's entry, Stefania, sung in Ukrainian, fuses rap with traditional folk music and is a tribute to frontman Ole Pesiuk's mother. The bookmakers have made it clear that it is the favorite for the annual contest, which normally draws a television audience of around 200 million based on the plight of Ukraine following Russia's invasion in February. For Pesiuk, a Eurovision win would do more for morale in his country. And in sports news, top seed Novak Djokovic has beaten Canadian Felix Auger-Aliassime 7-5, 7-6, 1 to reach the semi-finals of the Italian Open and move within one win of 1,000 career victories. By reaching the semis in Rome, the Serb also retained his world #1 ranking and avoided surrendering top spot to Russian Daniil Medvedev for the second time this year. Djokovic and Auger-Aliassime were neck-to-neck until the Serb broke to lead 5-3, but the 8th seed fought back, which provided only a blip, though, as Djokovic wrapped up in opening style. And that's the news update. For more stories, please follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Adebanke Odunui. Thank you for watching.
for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Free your mind, free your mind, free your mind, free your mind, free your mind and set your soul free. Free your mind, free your mind, free your mind, free your mind, free your mind and set your soul free. Free your mind, free your mind, free your mind, free your mind, free your mind and set your soul free. Free your mind, free your mind, free your mind, free your mind, free your mind and set your soul free. Free your mind, free your mind, free your mind, free your mind, free your mind and set your soul free. Free your mind, free your mind, free your mind, free your mind, free your mind and set your soul free.
All right. With its origin in the socialist movement, May 1st, or is it 1st of May, or is it May Day?
May 1.
Or Labor Day, was, called a day of protest for workers who would demand 8 hours of work per day, and thus the birth of Labor Day internationally. Would you believe that, Helen?
Mm-hmm. And so it's what's also knowing that Labor Day, or the International Workers' Days, has deep roots in the 130 years of labor movement and its effort to improve workers' conditions across the globe. So May 1 is significant in that it commemorated the Haymarket riot, an aftermath of bombing at the labor strike in Chicago in 1986. Did you know that?
We're talking Chicago.
Yes.
Why don't we bring it
It's
back
all over the
home?
world.
Well, anyway, today more than 160 countries celebrate Labor Day as a work-free day. And often it's a day of parades, demonstrations, rallies, and sometimes riots in major cities around the world, basically to highlight challenges workers still encounter and push for improved labor rights.
And so here at home, like you said earlier on Sunday the 1st of May, 2022, Nigeria joined many other countries of the world to celebrate the contribution of the workforce to society. Today we intend to x-ray the tradition and its true relevance against the backdrop of life and work balance, as well as how we must deal with the horrible bosses who are out there and also some horrible employees.
Horrible bosses, horrible employees.
So I say hello and welcome to a conversation that is definitely important to almost everyone there. I'm Helen Ongma Odele. The name hasn't yet changed on.
No, it hasn't changed, Helen.
It hasn't.
So true, Helen. In a society where majority are employees, isolating the International Workers' Day for a robust discussion is necessary. I'm happy to be here, and I thank you for joining us on Today with John and Helen. I am John Senaya.
All right, so John, let's get right to it, shall we?
Yeah, let's dive into it, like we say. Yes, Helen, after we take a break to enable us to catch my breath, I don't know about your breath, we will dive into it. So don't change the channel. We'll be right back before you know it. Stay with us.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. From the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Okay, so on the show this morning, or today, the relevance and the effectiveness of the celebration of International Workers' Day is on the front burner. And especially as it relates to workers in our immediate environment. Now, what used to be when we talk about workers, and has it changed? Has anything changed? The reason for all of the agitations, have they changed over the years? How can we balance life and work? How do we deal with horrible employers and employees? And a lot more questions that we have on our
horrible employees.
Horrible employees. Terrible. There are some of them out there. Yeah. And employers too.
Okay. Well, anyway, our very experienced guest on this matter is already with us online.
Yeah.
And before we hit the ground, let's talk about a few things that have kept our minds ticking this week. Helen, you're usually very good with observing things.
What can I think of? Okay.
So tell us, what has kept you?
Well, a lot of politicking here and there.
Yes.
I mean, you can't be in this environment now and not be, you know, in the know of all of that. So many people coming on to be wanting to be president, wanting to be governors, and all of that, and that's politicking
that's
everywhere in season.
Yeah.
And insecurity still not abating.
Continues, yeah.
All over the country, north, east, west, and south. We're still hearing some very disturbing news.
Gory stories.
Gory stories. One very pathetic was the one, the two persons, spouse, a husband and a wife to be, from the military on their way to the east. And was it on Tuesday or Wednesday for their traditional marriage? John, can you believe it? And they were apprehended, they were abducted, and they were slaughtered.
Slaughtered. Barbaric. Barbaric.
But the good news is that the people who did it, somehow they've been, there's some investigation going on, and the military has sworn that they must find.
Back the dead?
It would never. It would never.
It doesn't.
And
the ASU strike.
Still on, almost more than 2 months now.
Yeah, and I hear that there are some other groups joining in.
Yeah. And,
we really must feel a lot of pity
and
for...
NAN has come in to say that there will be no primaries anywhere unless the schools, the universities are opened. I don't know what strategies they have. I don't know how they plan to do that. But yes, they have come to say,
Wow.
Yes, we need to go back to school. If we
need
don't go back to school...
We need to go back to school. We need to go back to school. And talking about which, you know, I would have, as much as I'd have loved for us to switch over to, get off all of this and switch over to our guest, I think we need to get her back online. You know, she's gone online, offline temporarily.
Okay.
And we'll get her shortly. So
I also stumbled on another news. I don't know how true it is, that the airlines are threatening to stop operation, like from Monday. Give it
Helen, next week, could you give us positive news?
Okay.
It's all negative. Anyway, our guest is back. That's good news for us. Our guest is back. And of course, you know, this is Today with John and Helen. It's live on Plus TV Africa. It's a show which caters for the needs of the family. May 1, 1st of May 1, I don't know which one to choose, or the International Workers' Day is our focus on this edition of the show.
Okay, so straight away, let's meet our guest, who is a seasoned human resource professional with a career spanning over 18 years, cutting across the finance and human resource functions within the oil and gas transportation, fabrication, heavy equipment, and power generation industry. She's gone through all of this. She's been a worker for over 18 years. Our guest is a graduate of management and accounting from the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, with an MBA from the prestigious Lagos Business School.
Impressive. Well, permit me to add also that our guest, is also a certified project management and global human resource professional. She's a life coach. She enjoys mentoring young graduates and upcoming professionals. Mrs. Oluwatoyin Oshinaike has seen it all in the work arena and is here to answer our numerous questions. Welcome to Today with John and Helen.
Madam?
Madam.
Welcome. And thank you so much for joining us on the show. This should
Thank you for having me.
With all of your experience.
John, you should get an award. You pronounced the surname quite well.
Thank you.
You're very kind.
Thank you.
He stumbled on the first day.
I'm indeed flattened. I'm flattened. I'm flattened. Thank you so much. So I think for that reason I should fire the first salvo. We have loads and loads of questions for you, regarding Workers' Day and all of that. Now, today's worker, looks more weary, tired, stressed up than yesterday's worker. What would be the reasons behind this?
When you say today's worker and, comparing to workers in the past.
Yes.
I think what has happened is that we're juggling a lot more than the workers in the past were juggling. The problems seem the same, from afar, but when you take a closer look at it, you would realize that we're juggling more than our parents were juggling back then. You agree with me that the same, let me use this example, the same level of infrastructure hasn't gotten any better. And we are still coping with life with those same infrastructures. A good example is the traffic gridlock. We have the same road network that my parents had back then. In fact, at times when I talk about when I used to work in a papa, then in 2010, and I tell my mom that wow, I was working with Niger Dock and it was just right next door to Tin Can. At times we were leaving the office and just hear don't bother today because a container has fallen across the road. And then we're trekking 2 hours and people can't come to work the next day. So I was sharing that with my mom and she was like, when I was working in that axis, it was the same story.
Would our politicians agree with you? Because they've always promised new roads, water, power. Would they agree with you?
Oh, no, you see, everybody will talk from their own perspective and everybody will tell you what they feel that you want to hear. It's for you to decide how the shoe pinches you and what you want to do about it.
That's right, yes. That's right.
Okay.
So, okay, go on.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned this Apapa axis, Lagos is very peculiar. And I was in Apapa for just last week or 2 weeks ago, after like 10 years or 6, 7 years. And that madness is still there, but a little bit controlled. The big trailers are parked on one side and there's some small passage for people to move around. And so one wonders that when you're talking about workers' welfare, the worker is expected to be at work every day, except you have a saint for a bus, and then you have to go through all of this. But even at that, some people tell us today that workers of this day have more job opportunities. Would you say this is correct?
Oh, yes, I agree. You hear, I'm sure you've heard a lot of talk about the future of work. And, as a lot of people will tell you, the future of work is now. People have choices now. The choices they didn't have those days. You know why? Because of the advent of social media, because of the advancement of technology, there are options. I'll use myself as an example. With the advent of COVID in 2020, a lot of us would have said work from home is not possible. It's not an option. But even bosses that would want to micromanage you and have you in the office had to contend with the fact that there was nothing they could do about it, at least for that period of time. And working from home, a lot of people discovered that it could work better. And a lot of people, even bosses, discovered that, okay, I'm still getting what I want. But in the same vein, some other people found that they couldn't cope. They needed to be in the office. Yeah. And then, to digress a bit, some people found the opportunity that they could have a side hustle and actually run with it. Then they had the mind that, okay, yeah, I have an option. And they don't. And after the COVID and people started coming back to the office, they decided, no, I don't think I want to do this anymore. And they went with their side hustle because during that period, the side hustle had actually, gained ground and they were making a lot of money and they were thinking to themselves, trying to weigh the options. And they're like, I think I'm better off working from home. At least I don't have to report to that horrible boss. So yes, there are options, more options now than we had back then.
So clearly we're on the same page there. That it's not for lack of options, right? The worker today has more options, more opportunities. Now we say more perspiration, less inspiration, and that appears to be the best description for the typical Nigerian worker today. He's scrambling around everywhere, but he's not inspired. What do you think? What do you really think would inspire him?
Okay. I'd like to answer this question from the perspective of a coach and a therapist. Let me share something with you. I was in the kitchen yesterday evening and my son said something, said, Mommy, he's about 9 years old. He said, Mommy, happiness, money cannot buy you happiness. I said, yes, you're right. And my first daughter goes, but Mommy, it can. And, I was trying to get her thought. I said, so what do you think? What do you need money for? I said, buy things, buy this, buy that. And I told her, I said, how many people do you know of recent that have committed suicide? And that had loads of money. And she paused. I said, think about it. Happiness is a choice. We're all faced with different various circumstances. Some people will tell you, okay, if I get this job, I'll be happy. If I get married, I'll be happy. The same way in the workplace as well. You'll get to work in some places. You might get the inspiration you need, get a good boss. Good for you. Yeah. But there are times you might find yourself in places where your boss, going to work in the morning, you're feeling depressed. Your blood pressure is going up, your heart is palpitating because you don't know what you'll meet for that day. Yeah. But in the midst of it all, you tell yourself, I'm doing this because I love what I do. Or I'm doing this for this time, just for the time being. I have a plan B. So there must be something within you that brings about that inspiration. If you're looking outside for the inspiration, especially in today's world, you might have to look for a very long time.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. All right. So many things are flying through my head as you answer. I read a piece last week where they were, bringing back the previous leaders of this country, from Awolowo, to Tafawa Balewa, to his Gowon himself. At very early age, they were matured enough to take leadership positions. They were prepared. So when we talk about the job opportunities now are more than they used to be, I'm asking, are the youth of today, are the workers actually prepared, to take these additional responsibilities that bring in more resources? That's tickling in my head. But my question for you at this point is, as a fallout of this more work and less pay syndrome, how is the typical family affected? Because this is majorly a family show.
I'm glad you asked that question. And, and when you also asked as well, the first point you raised before you asked this question, that are the youths prepared as well to even take up opportunities? The first thing that came to my mind when you made that point was that it all stems from the family units. You agree with me that a lot of the values you hold dear today and your beliefs, or whatever your belief system is today, if you take a good look at it, you'll discover that it stems from the family unit or your associations when you were growing up. Yeah. The psychologist will tell you that give me a child for the first 7 years of his life and he's mine forever. It's a profound statement, because a lot of the beliefs and values we work with today as individuals stems from our experiences when we were growing up, and most of it from the family unit. Now, if the family unit is not value driven, and the values also depend, that's another thing. Your value is different from my own values. Sure. But there should be a fundamental or basic factor that runs through all the values. It's humanity. That's the most important thing. So the values you were brought up with and the values I was brought up with should, whatever they are, should all stem towards being humane towards one another. That's the key factor for me. Now, these days, because just like you said, back to your question, a lot of, because of the race, the rat race, the struggle to make ends meet, a lot of families find themselves in a position they do not want to be. But if you ask me, it's at that point in time that you should sit back and ask yourself, what is your goal in life? What are the things that you hold dear? For example, when I started my career, I knew I would be a career person. I love to work, but I told myself that family first. I remember going for an interview back then, and we finished the interview and they said, do you have any questions? After I'd asked the question, my second question was, I hope it's not compulsory for me to work weekends and to work late. And the guy looked at me. I said, no, don't get me wrong. If I have work to do, you don't have to tell me I'll work late, because I want to deliver. If I have to come in on a Saturday if I need to, I would come. You don't have to tell me. But I don't want you to tell me it's compulsory. And the guy looked at me and said, you actually took out time to ask that question. I said, yes, because my family comes first.
Wow.
Because it was a decision I had made. And, he couldn't, the guy was wondering that. And I was like, the choice is yours. If you want me or not, what are you after? Is it for me to deliver? Or for me to do the high service of my boss is still here, so I can't leave? No, I won't do that. Because at that point in time, I had a growing family.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't compromise it for anything. So for me, if you ask me, yes, a lot of families do have to face that struggle these days. But like I said, the choice is yours. You have to decide what's important to you, what's your priority list. And on that list, what is most paramount to you?
Yeah. But you see, I like the scenario that you painted. But it would appear that you were probably working from a position of strength. I mean, maybe your employers...
I was out of a job. John, sorry to cut in, I was out of a job at that point in time. I had just had my first child, and I was out of a job for a year before I started looking for a job again.
The point I'm even trying to make is that for a lot of people, they may be too scared or,
too desperate.
Too desperate.
Not wanting to lose the work, the opportunity.
Yes.
To now give those counter
conditions,
to employers. But it's the point you have made is well taken and understood, But again, we just want to look at people who may be weaker than you are, in negotiating for jobs.
Okay, John, let me come in there. You see, I've also been in that position before. And let me tell you what I did, because I've had the opportunity to move around. I tell people not by choice, but that's the way events have played out in my life, and I have no regrets. I've been home for about 2 years, and by then I had my third child. And you agree with me that in Nigeria, relying on the income of just one partner in the home for 2 years, it's a lot of struggle, because whether you have savings, you have investment, you have to start replenishing at one point in time or the other.
Yes.
And I went for the interview. Usually it's my husband that takes me for most of my interviews. So I went for the interview and I got to that place, I had the interview. And when I got into the car, I told my husband, I said, I'm not really keen about working here. And he told me, to be sincere, even looking from outside is not really keen about me working here. But I sat back and I looked at, what options do I have? I've been home for 2 years, and reality is, knocking at the door. I have to make a decision quick and fast.
Yes.
So I thought about it. Okay, what can I deal with? What can I not deal with? Let's start out first. But while I start out, it's the opportunity for me to even get my foot in the door first and get back into the work environment. Yes. And then I might start looking at other options. So I had to take that call at that point in time. Yes, I understand. There are times you need to take those decisions.
Yes. Well, okay, I'm sure you'll agree with me that the Nigerian worker, as a matter of fact, not just the Nigerian worker, most workers
all over the world
are hard workers. They work hard. People all over the world are working harder than ever before. But they say that the reward for hard work is more work. How can today's worker cope? His plate is full already. He's working hard already. But they now say that the reward for hard work is even more work. How so?
They say the reward for hard work is even more work. But you agree with me that if the hard work is not adding value, they won't give you more work.
Yeah.
Okay.
First thing, let's get that right.
Yes.
So if they tell me hard work, one of the line managers that told me hard work then was because I'd done very well in the assignments, the tasks that had been given to me. So I knew that it was time for more work. So we have to put it in perspective. If it's doing work that because they see that you've gotten a hang of the task and you can do better and they can challenge you, they give you more work, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if it is more work that in terms of labor, hard labor, and there are no what's the word now, no corresponding compensation in that regard, then we can say hard work, more work because you need to make more money.
Okay.
So in that instance,
yes.
You agree with me that even if you decide that you want to do the labor work as much as possible, get to a point in time that your body will tell you, I can't go on.
Yes. Even when the compensation is there.
Thank you. So now, back to where I started from, you have to decide yourself that, okay, hard work, more work. What is it making sense to me? If you tell me hard work, more work, it will make sense to me. That means I'm delivering. I'm adding value to the system and they're giving me more work. Hey, that's what I want to hear. Because very soon I'm going to be negotiating a higher pay or a bonus or something. But if it's hard work, labor work, and you're dying, oh please.
So
Let me give you a good example.
Once you get to your break even in quotes, get to your break even point, you don't want to go beyond it for nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, for nothing. Yes, it's for nothing. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
I had usually in my position, head of HR, you deal with the unions at times, and if I have admin reporting to me, you also have to deal with the drivers as well. And I remember there was a time I just resumed in a particular place, and I was looking at the overtime. Wow, it just didn't make sense.
Yes.
And I called, and if you feel that you're getting, you're making much more money, down the line, we would hear that, oh, one of them had high blood pressure, he's retired, he has high blood pressure, he had a stroke, and then you're raising money, funds to get him. And I'm like, well, you know what you're doing now? You're working yourself. You're working, excuse me, let me not use the word, but you're working, let me use the head off. I wanted to use another word on one live TV. And you believe you're making the money, and then come 55, 60, they ask you to retire, and you have no use to yourself or to your family. So you have to try to balance, know when to exactly. Yes. So whether hard work, more work, it's for you to decide. Oh, you're a good driver, I want you to come. You better ask yourself what you want to do. Yeah. And then you'll retire home, the family that you felt that would be there for you. So that means a large portion earn what, just like John said, how far can the money take them? And that's why you see the advent and the embrace of side hustle. Because human nature is we'll find a way to cope.
Yeah.
And if you're somebody that say to yourself, all I can do is a honest work, I wouldn't do anything illegal, I wouldn't do anything that is immoral, you're forced to take a decision that, okay, what can I do on the side? So that's why you see that there's a rampant clamor, and people are clamoring more for side hustle, that I must have something doing on the side. This money can't take me home. And then another thing is that is not working that is not, for lack of a better way to put it, that is working against workers is the labor law. It's quite outdated.
Okay.
There are no standards or anything, regulating how people are paid. Why I say this is because I remember working in a particular organization, and I'm telling the owner of the organization that this won't work. You're telling us to pay people 50,000. Let's sit down and calculate it. The transport to and fro and the lunch they will have. What's the money is gone, and he goes showing there are a lot of people out there who would jump at that offer.
Yeah. And quite frankly, that point
that's
that
a horrible
made, that point, that's the reality of what is happening.
So Exactly. So if there's nobody regulating that, and they know that true because people are out there desperate, what would happen? People would actually jump at the offer. But like I said at the beginning, it's that the fact is that that's why you see people embracing side hustle because they need to survive.
Yeah. And you'll even find, you'll even find husband and wife working, to earn an income. But again, there's a flip side to that coin. The home front suffers. What would even be your advice where husband and wife have to work to be able to, to meet up, but the home front suffers? What would you say to them? Yes. How do they balance it?
Okay, you've made a very valid point, and to be sincere, what we see in society today is part of the price we're paying for that, whether we want to admit it or not. That's the price we're paying for that, for those choices we've made over time. What usually helps a lot of people is the support system they have in place. Yeah. Now, I say that with a bit of, with a bit of caution, or because when both parents have to work and put a support system in place, if the support system is not something you're comfortable with, but you have to make do with, you are not able to function well even at work. Why I'm saying this is I have a lot of people who are, even myself as well, when in a senior position, you have to have a driver because you're driving home from work, 3-4 hours traffic after the long day. You're left with no choice. I think I need to get a driver so that I don't die before my time. Secondly, you need to have a nanny for those that have young children. You need to have some other support, the general support system, whether family close by, your mom is still able to stay with you, things like that. You have to have them in place. But you agree with me that a lot of times the nannies and the drivers also are a challenge to have them in the home.
Because you have to pay them.
You have to, apart from paying them, like you said, the family as well affected. A lot of your children get their values from them.
Yes.
Okay. Because you were not home to actually be the one to teach those values.
Okay.
Now, for me, the way I coped with that was that there were certain times I had to be out of work, out of employment. Yeah. Because I knew that I needed to be with my children. So it was a choice I made.
Yes.
Okay. One. Then secondly, whenever I take nannies, I usually, in fact, a lot of the nannies that worked with me are nannies that my parents engaged for me. Why? Because my mom would come in, get a nanny, and work with them for a while.
Okay.
So that was my own way of trying to, at least get somebody that shares the same values with me. Then I don't take young people. I take elderly people, women. And then I was also key about the fact that they must be able to speak Yoruba, and they must speak Yoruba to my children, because I wanted my children to speak and understand Yoruba.
Okay.
And they must be elderly so that in case anything happens at home, they know what to do immediately. So those were the choices for me in terms of a nanny, because you're coming into my home and you're staying with me in my home. Because back then, that was the choice I had to make.
Yeah,
so if I knew I was going to make that choice, let me go the extra mile of ensuring that the person I'm putting in place is someone I can have a level of trust.
Is able to fill your shoes, at least to a large extent, yes.
Exactly. And then, in addition to that, I had very good support from my husband as well throughout my career. He's been very supportive.
Great.
So he gets some, maybe like 6, 7 latest, he's home. And I also get maybe around that 6, 7. Except there's bad traffic and maybe going to 8, 9.
Yeah.
So exactly. And then, okay, sorry, Helen, you want to ask?
It just comes across to me like that was an excellent balance. And answering John's question is that you're recommending some of these steps and strategies to a lot of mothers and families who are probably watching this program to say, if you find yourself in this position, this is probably how to go about it. And for me, that makes a lot of sense.
It really does.
It does.
Great, great. So, well, at this point, we will take a break.
Oh,
okay.
Because we've gone out on the streets, we've asked a few questions, and we have some very interesting answers. So we'll go on this little break and hear what the people are saying out there.
Hey, what's up, guys? You're welcome to another edition of Plus Event, and I remain your host, Ifeoluwa Oshuke. Your absence isn't an excuse anymore, as Plus Event is all you need, as we bring you the glitz, the glamour, and loads of fun.
Oh, definitely, right? No question. He's a living legend.
Oh, God forbid, Holy Ghost fire, I know.
I just want to be blown away. I want to be wild. This is 11 years of doing it.
I'm surrounded by so much positivity. No, it's okay.
Yo, what's up, my people? It's your boy Starboy Terry. You're watching
Plus Event on Plus TV.
Stay glued to Plus TV Africa every Saturday and Sunday, 4:30 p.m. West African time.
This medal has been directed to empower 1,000 persons with disabilities in each state in the next 12 months.
We now start hearing the shoot of guns.
Every public policy has winners and losers, and some will not be very happy with you, while others, usually the silent majority, will be quite happy.
Okay, we thank you so much for being with us on the show so far. This is a family-centered show on Plus TV Africa, and we call it Today with John and Helen. And on today's show, we are looking at the welfare of the workers, which is of very, very big interest to us, against the background that this is a family-centered program. If you would notice, we have deliberately left agitations out of it. You know, the labor war between the labor unions and government and all of those rights, because our emphasis is on how do we get the workers in a better place so that the family also can move forward.
Yes.
All right, so that's deliberate. Ona, our guest is still there? Are you still there?
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you for hanging in there with us.
Yes.
All right, John.
And thanks for your advice. You know, I've been rolling a lot of those things in my head since you spoke.
Okay.
And I think at this point we'll just move into, talking about
buses.
Yes, actually, we should talk about. You talk about horrible bosses
and the workers.
It's something that Helen has repeatedly hammered on.
Yes,
even right from the beginning of this program. So nobody wants a horrible boss.
Nobody does. Nobody also wants a horrible worker.
So who is a horrible boss?
And do we have them?
Yes, we have horrible bosses. The same way, like you said, we have horrible employees. But if there's anything, one of the things I took away from business school was the fact that when you're trying to